Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome back for another Talking and Grubbing live stream. And we're here for the Last Dance recap. We're recapping tonight's episodes 7 and 8. Excuse me. We started to get more in depth with, you know, some things that weren't revealed. Also, the tragic detail. Well, we also finally find out the infamous, you know, scuffle between Michael Jordan and Steve Kerr on how that went down. As y'all all coming into the live stream, make sure you hit the like button. Also, I want to know your thoughts on the parts you just saw or your thoughts on this whole documentary. This whole documentary series so far. Sorry for the late start. I had to handle a couple of things to get before I got on the air with y'all. But I'm glad I'm here. And for those of you who coming in, thanks for joining me. Like I said, make sure you hit the like button. Also, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell and click all so you don't miss any new videos or upcoming live streams from me. Because I will be back next Sunday to recap the final 2 episodes of The Last Dance. And also next Monday, I'm going to do a recap of my take of the whole series. And I'm trying to book another YouTuber to collab with me. Tonight, I was supposed to have Jay Moore reviews, but he couldn't make it. Personal matter came up. So I understand, got to take care of home first. So nothing personal. So let's get in. So let's start this recap. Start with part 7. Now, part 7 began with the 1998 playoffs against the New Jersey Nets as the Bulls started the run to seek their 6th championship in 8 years. Now, a lot of people thought that the Bulls wouldn't have no challenge of handling the New Jersey Nets. But the first 2 games, the Nets definitely gave the Bulls a run for their money, especially game 1, where they had to go to overtime and hold on to beat the New Jersey Nets. Then in the second game, they had to win another close one, just to go up 2-0. But then they went on to complete the sweep on the road by, finally blowing them out thanks to Scott Burrell's 23 points to go along with Michael Jordan's 38 points. Excuse me. I'm going to get a little bit more to detail about Scott Burrell and Michael Jordan's relationship a little bit later. But then the episode flashback to Michael Jordan's father, talking about all the times they had and Jordan recalling how big of an influence he was on him and how they just weren't father and son. They were also best friends. And then it later delves into his disappearance later on that summer after the Bulls were just coming off their 3rd straight championship. Michael Jordan's personal assistant recalled how he was supposed to pick up Michael Jordan's father from the airport, but then his father didn't show up. So they started calling his mother, to see if she had heard from him. She said she hadn't heard from him. Then Michael Jordan's mom called and says that she hadn't heard from him. Excuse me, y'all. Hello? What size you on? Give me a minute. All right. Wait, when I'm live streaming. Never said. Where's my key? Yes, I have you too for the never said. We keep waiting. I'm so sorry, y'all. Sorry about that interruption. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Now, it had been 3 weeks since Michael Jordan's father, James Jordan, went missing. And in that time, they found his car stripped and damaged off of a North Carolina road. And not too much later, they found his body floating in a ravine, well, in a creek in between North and South Carolina. So that really just, devastated Michael Jordan and his family. So Michael Jordan just decided that it was a great time to just retire from basketball, you know, just to decompose, well, just to relax. He felt that he had no motivation, no more challenges, and the media frenzy was just so crazy at that time. At his retirement press conference, there were thousands of cameras and reporters from all over the world there. I mean, come on, this was like a Hollywood premiere. When he had his press conference. Now, actually, Michael went to Jerry Reinsdorf and Phil Jackson, and then during the 93, well, during game one of the 93 ALCS, Jordan told, you know, Jerry Krause was informed by Jerry Reinsdorf that Jordan was retiring, and he wanted to hold the story till the next day for the press conference. But it got leaked out somehow, and Pat O'Brien, who was working as the sideline reporter for CBS during the ALCS at that time, announced during the broadcast that Michael Jordan would be retiring. So it was just such a media frenzy. It was such a big shock to everyone that a player of Jordan's caliber would want to go out in the prime of his career after winning 3 straight NBA championships. And some people speculate that his father's murder has something to do with his, gambling issues. I mean, that was pretty messed up to bring that out at that time, and pretty sick as well. You don't sit and bring that out. You don't sit and bring that out, especially when somebody's going through that kind of time. So that was low. That was a low blow by the media. Excuse me. And also, people thought David Stern told Michael Jordan to, take a hiatus and then come back. But one of the interviewees said, why would David Stern would want to take the most profitable player in the NBA and the most profitable team in the NBA at that time out of the game and devalue the league by a little bit? And David Stern, which is basically his last interview, said that he never told Michael Jordan to retire. But it still brings, it still it still makes great debate conversations almost 30 years later. And also, a lot of people speculated Michael Jordan retiring because of the gambling scandal at that time during the 92-93 season. So then Michael Jordan decides to play baseball. That was his father's dream. He was signed by the Chicago White Sox and sent down to their minor league system, which was managed by Terry Francona, who would go on to manage the Boston Red Sox to 2 World Series championships, and also managed the Cleveland Indians to a World Series appearance in 2016. Excuse me for a second. Hello? My apologies again. Okay, now, okay, I was talking about Jordan's baseball career. Now, he got off to a good start in the minors, and he had a 13-game hitting streak, but, you know, he couldn't hit fastballs. So, basically, Michael Jordan's baseball career kind of went bust. Well, it did go bust. So then one day during the player strike in 95, which had started in 94, he runs into BJ Armstrong. They go and have breakfast. So BJ Armstrong tells Jordan, you know, oh no, excuse me. My mistake. Now, during this episode, they talked about Jordan and Scott Burrell's, relationship. And Michael Jordan constantly rode Scott Burrell, trash talking him, ridiculing him. Now, Scott Burrell was a very nice guy, cool guy, just a real cool customer, wouldn't really get upset. So he constantly just rode Burrell like it wasn't nothing. And, Burrell would just not really say anything. He wouldn't really respond. He would just basically ignore Michael. And I don't think, I always think, sometimes I think just because you don't respond to somebody talking crap about you, that doesn't make you a punk or less of a man. But I guess Scott Burrell was just one of those dudes. He wanted to let his play do the talking, his action do the talking. So he would basically ignore Michael, and Michael felt, well, wished he would have, fought with him more, in practice. Not fist fighting, but, really be physical with him, be competitive with him. But, Scott Burrell will end up surprising people end up surprising in his own way. Now, also the episode delved into the Bulls without Michael Jordan, and man, Scottie Pippen was balling that year 90 in the 93-94 season. He had a hell of a season. He had an MVP caliber season. Matter of fact, let me look up I'm looking up his stats right now from that season. Okay, according to basketballreference.com, during the 93-94 season, Scottie averaged 21 points per game. He also had averaged 8 rebounds, also 5 or 6 assists, 2 steals. Man, and I think he finished outside of the top 5 in MVP voting. Now, as y'all know, Hakeem Olajuwon went on to win the MVP that year because the Rockets ended up having the best record in the league. But man, Scottie should at least been in top 5 in MVP voting. But the Bulls would finish with 55 wins without Michael Jordan. And they would they swept the Cavs in the first round. Then they would go on to play the New York Knicks in the second round. Now, the Knicks were already ahead 2-0 in the series. Game 3 was very close. Seconds left, the Knicks tied it. So then Phil Jackson calls a timeout, calls everybody to the huddle. Now, Phil decides to run a play for Tony Kukoc, who also really came into his own that season instead of Scottie Pippen. And, Scottie Pippen was very upset and kind of hurt by that Phil would do that. And Phil asked him, are you in or out? And Scottie said, I'm out. So he took himself out of the game for the final play. Now, the Bulls would win on a Kukoc jumper at the buzzer, but a lot of his teammates could not believe that he would do something like that. Steve Kerr, Bill Cartwright, a lot of the guys felt like Scottie quit on him, on that play. Now, in a way, I can't blame Pippen for being upset because, he was the leader of that team that year. Plus, he had got them this far to that point. So he felt like he should at least, be the man. But in my opinion, at least Phil could have gave him a chance to win the game for him. At least make him an option. Say if the Knicks end up double teaming him, then kick it out to Kukoc. But Phil Jackson wanted Scottie Pippen to be the inbounder. So after that, Scottie ended up apologizing to his teammates, for letting his ego get in the way and feeling like that he was bigger than the game. But the Bulls will ultimately lose that series in 7 games on a controversial foul by the book, called on the Bulls, where the Knicks would hit free throws to win the game. Excuse me. But Tony Kukoc definitely came into his own that season. Well, his first season coming over to the Bulls after Michael Jordan had left. As y'all saw in the last week's parts, that Michael and Scottie ridiculed the hell out of Kukoc, during the 92 Summer Olympics. because Jerry Krause was very high on him, and they took it as an insult. So Michael and Scotty really took it to him that first game, that first game in the Olympics. But Coach definitely went on to earn Scotty's respect. Now, the episode ends with the Bulls sweeping the Nets in Game 3 with Scott Burrell scoring 23 points along with Michael Jordan's 38. So, Scott Burrell definitely done a lot of talking, with Michael Jordan, but he backed it up with his play. And he definitely had the game of his life, in that game to close out the Nets and move on to the second round. Now, for part A. Part A began the Bulls opening up the second round of the 98 NBA playoffs against the Charlotte Hornets. BJ Armstrong was facing his old team. Now, the Bulls took care of business in Game 1. They balled out. But then, Game 2, the Hornets decided to give BJ Armstrong more minutes since he knew the Bulls, Michael Jordan, and that whole system. And BJ went off in Game 2. That man could not miss for nothing. That man was hitting shot after shot after shot. And in the final seconds of the game, he put the dagger in them to seal the game. And he was talking trash to Michael, Phil Jackson, and the Bulls bench. And Michael basically felt that was a big mistake and that BJ Armstrong should have known better. First of all, I don't know about that should have known better stuff, because come on, that's a grown man like you are. Like, you talking like that's your kid or something, like he should have known better. No. And plus, I think BJ Armstrong in that moment felt like he was giving back to Michael what he had given him all those years that they were teammates. Because Jordan trash talked a lot, trash talked a lot of to a lot of players, especially to a lot of his teammates. So what he just felt what's good for the goose is what's good for the gander. Excuse me. And then the episode also delved into Michael Jordan dealing with the players' strike in 1995, which had started in the middle of the 94 MLB season. And the MLB at first proposed that they play with replacement players. That was a bad idea by the MLB, because the product definitely wouldn't have looked good on the field. And they wanted Michael Jordan to cross the picking line, but he said, no, I'm not crossing the picking line and playing replacement games. So he walked out of the White Sox training camp. So he ran to BJ Armstrong one day and just said, come by the facility. Everybody want to see you. So, after they had their breakfast, they went over to the facility, and BJ Armstrong was talking his crap like, yeah, you've been out of the game so long, you can't play no more. I even kick your ass right now. So, they went one-on-one against each other in a pickup game. But a lot of the Bulls players at that time felt a different energy in the air, feeling like that, hey, maybe Jordan is ready to come back to the NBA. And it was speculation for a very long time. The media constantly was all over it. So when Jordan finally decided to come back, he and his agent, David Falk, were trying to write a press release to announce it, but nothing really vibed well with either one of them. They had 3 or 4 different versions of it. So Falk gives Jordan a pen and a piece of paper, and Michael Jordan just writes, "I'm back." And that was the press release that was faxed out to the world that he was back. And Michael Jordan returned in 95 late in the season. Matter of fact, it was basically close to the end of the season. He played his first game against the Indiana Pacers. And that was very emotional and a trying time for him, because that was the first game he was going to play without his father being there. And Jordan struggled in his first game against the Pacers. As a matter of fact, he went 0 for 6 in the first half. He finished strong, but you can definitely see the rust was there. Then a few games later, he had the classic 55-point game against the Knicks in the Garden, as the Bulls won in the final seconds thanks to Jordan pass to Bill Wennington for the dunk. And then the 95 playoffs, the Bulls would face the Orlando Magic in the second round. Now, as y'all all know, the Magic was balling out that year. Shaq and Penny were just doing the damn thing. They added Horace Grant after the Bulls let him go because they wouldn't give him a new deal. And Horace Grant definitely felt very hurt by the Bulls organization for not paying him after he had helped them deliver 3 championships. So he decided to go with an up-and-coming team with 2 young stars. And the Magic would win game 1 thanks to Nick Anderson's steal on Michael Jordan in the waning seconds. And then Nick said that 45 ain't the same as 23. So Michael Jordan decided to put back on the number 23, and he balled out in game 2. And then the Bulls balled out. Excuse me. And then the Magic would go on to tie the series at 2 games apiece. And then they would ultimately go on to win the series in 6 games in the United Center, as Horace Grant was a big difference maker and a big factor in that game. Phil dared someone else to beat them, and he was the one who ended up beating them. And also, not only the Magic, knocked off the Bulls, but the Magic, lifted up Horace Grant and carried him on their shoulders like he was Rocky. So that definitely added insult to injury right there. And that definitely, bruised Jordan's ego. Them carrying off a guy that he helped with, that was a part of their first three-peat on their shoulders in their building. So Michael told his trainer that he wanted to start working out the next day after that loss so he could really get back into basketball shape. Now, that same summer, he was out in California filming Space Jam. And, he told Warner Brothers that, hey, I need to work out. They said, no problem. We'll build a facility. And, man, they built a very nice facility for him. A dome. There was a dome facility. It had a basketball court, weights. Man, it was state of the art. So, during his breaks, he would, go and work out. Then he would also bring players like Patrick Ewing, Dennis Rodman, Reggie Miller, Sean Bradley, Chris Mullin, Juwan Howard out there, to work out and play pickup games. So that way, he could go on the path to get back into basketball shape and also reestablish his rhythm, because one of the main factors in basketball is rhythm. You know, if you're not in a rhythm, then you're not going to play very well. So after, you know, he had finished filming Space Jam, the Bulls were ready to start the 95-96 season, and they ended up finishing 72-10, which is one of the, you know, biggest win totals in NBA history. They had surpassed the Lakers' 69 win record. And man, the Bulls came out of the gate running that year. They had won their first 23 of 25 games. You know, that was just amazing at that time. Now, as y'all know, the Warriors eclipsed that by winning 73 games in the 2015-16 season, which, you know, ironically, Steve Kerr was the coach, even though he didn't coach most of the first half of the season because he was recovering from back surgery. And y'all also know how that season ended. Didn't end pretty well for the Warriors. But that's another discussion for another time. And, you know, once the playoff, the Bulls definitely did not stop. And, man, they were just, you know, just knocking off teams and taking names. Well, for the most, excuse me, they definitely dominated the playoffs. They, you know, they swept the Miami Heat. Then in the first round, and in the second round, they knocked off the Knicks in 5 games. Then they got payback in a big way against Orlando by sweeping them. So not only the Bulls dominated the regular season, they dominated the playoffs. But then they came on a tough test in the Seattle Supersonics. You know, they were a pretty good team. They had Sean Kemp and Gary Payton. You know, the glove. Now the Bulls took care of business in the first game, but they definitely had to fight to win the second game, and they dominated in game 3. But then the Supersonics definitely wouldn't quit in games 4 and 5, and then the Bulls definitely won a hard-fought game 6 to win their 4th NBA title in in 5 years. No, in 6 years, excuse me. But, you know, that was very an emotional series for Michael Jordan. You know, he cried after, you know, they won that championship because that was the first title he won without his dad being present. Plus, that game 6 fell on Father's Day. So, you know, Jordan and the Bulls definitely sent a message to the NBA that they were back and that everybody had to go through them if they wanted to dethrone them once again. And then the documentary ended with the start of the 98 Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. So, wow, man, these last few weeks have flown by fast. We only got 2 episodes left of The Last Dance, and we're going to finally see the 98 Eastern Conference Finals and the 98 NBA Finals between the Bulls and the Jazz, and I can't wait to see those next week. But anyways, y'all, I'm about to get out of here. Thank y'all for joining me for these live streams tonight. I really appreciate it. You know, I appreciate your thoughts and comments. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Don't make it your last. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click that bell icon. Click all so you don't miss any new videos or upcoming live streams from me. But I got to get out of here, y'all. Got to do a couple of things. You know, I have fun being on these live streams with y'all. I enjoy doing this for y'all very much. I appreciate y'all support. So till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. QC out.